Hey gang, it's Eric Whitacre here, and I am with the extraordinary VOCES8, and we are in London, in the VOCES8 Centre, this beautiful Christopher Wren church. When was this church built? Do we know?
Where's Jan when you need her?
Yeah. Apparently he used this church and another one nearby to practice before he built the really big one, St. Paul's just over there.
Really?
So somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary space, and probably many of you know it not only from the recordings, but a lot of VOCES8 videos. And this is where we made this album, Home. And it was funny because just when I walked through the doors, it's been a year since we made that album, and it's my first time back in here since then, and I immediately got emotional just remembering that time. It was such a special experience making music in here with all of you. And we're so excited to have all of you with us here today to sing through Sing Gently. We're also joined by Christopher Glynn, pianist, the extraordinary Christopher Glynn. Chris, of course, also appears on the album, and we just did a concert together the other night with my group here in London, the Eric Whitacre Singers. That went well, I thought. Yeah, it was super fun. It is a boiling day here in London. I'm from Los Angeles, and it's weird to be coming to England for the weather. It's genuinely warm here, I would say. It's 30, 31 degrees, which is about 90 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in the US. But we're excited to make some music with all of you. And what we thought we'd do is we'll sing through Sing Gently first. Let's sing through it all the way once. For those of you who know the piece, this will be just a chance to kind of refamiliarize yourself with it. For those of you who have never sung it, just hang on with us, and then we're going to break it down. We'll kind of go part by part, rehearse a little bit, and then at the end of it, we'll sing it all through again once you've learned it. And then we'll break, and all of us will move to a little different section of the hall here, and we'll have a Q&A session. So if any of you have any questions for any of us, you can send them in, and we'll be happy to answer those. Let's start by singing, shall we? Here we go. Sing Gently.
Voice
Okay, you all sound fantastic out there. I'm laughing because this is what I always do when I hear music that moves me. And first of all, you can now all say, just like me, oh my God, I've performed with VOCES8. But if you ever get the chance to be in the room live with this group of singers, I just can't tell you the frizzings, the chills that just go up and down the spine. I love making music with all of you. And beautiful playing, Chris, truly beautiful. Good. So, gang, the other part of this piece is, the other component of it, is that it was written during the pandemic. And I think that's also part of the reason I get emotional, is because the moment I hear Chris's intro, it just reminds me of those early days of the pandemic when we were in lockdown and nobody knew what was going to happen. And it was as if the entire world stopped singing all at the same time. And I wrote this piece relatively quickly. Usually it takes me months to write a piece of music, but I wrote Sing Gently. I think the lyrics probably took me 3 or 4 days. I wrote those first, and then the music itself probably a week or a week and a half, which is very, very quick for me. And I tried to embed it with what I thought was our way through the pandemic. Even then, I remember walking on the street, and I was wearing a mask, and someone else was wearing a mask, and we crossed each other, and I moved out of the way. They moved out of the way too, and I thought, my God, we're in a different world right now, where we're even just a stranger is suddenly a threat. And I thought our only way through this is compassion and empathy. This is a long way of saying that built into the piece then is this idea of society here and then sort of splitting apart. And let's start with the sopranos and altos. Can we go from measure 5 as we start to build this? Sopranos, you've just got this G that's held across, right? May we sing together. But it's not just a note that's just to be held and sung over and over again, the same thing. What you're doing is you're here, so you're this part of society, and then the altos are going to peel away from you, and then come back, and then peel away. It's like we start together, and then immediately we start to break away. So the pain of that little dissonance between the G and the F sharp when that happens, altos, that's real. That needs to sound more than just a little dissonant. Shall we try that, altos and sopranos? Let's go from measure 5. Ready? 3, and go. Yeah, just like that. Now, here's another part of the piece, and it's built in. You hear this amazing group of singers already doing it naturally. But built into the piece was a musical gesture that I thought exemplified humility, which is push, pull, push, pull. There's always just this sense of gentleness. And you hear this as we sing. May we sing to push, pull, always. That happens over and over. Every voice part gets some version of this. Can we go again and put that all together, sopranos and altos? Ready, and 1. May we sing to push, push, good. May our voice be song. Good, let's stop here for a while. Then the basses and tenors join us, and the idea is almost like a film score. They're the string section. And they're just going to warm this up nice and beautifully. Basses and tenors, can we go right there where we stopped? Ready? 3, 4. Good, that's exactly right, basses and tenors. So as you sing, I think there's kind of a warmth to your sound there that is, the way I think of it when I'm writing it is that suddenly basses and tenors are this feather bed that the altos and sopranos can just sort of lay on and glow a little bit. So now we get to what I call the hook. I started as a pop musician when I was a teenager before I became a classical musician. And I always think of this bit as the hook, sing, sing gently. And to me, there's 2 kinds of hooks in pop. There's the kind like, say in EDM, where there's a build, a build, a build, a build, a build, then the drop, and then then the hook explodes, right? That's kind of a positive hook, if you will. Then there's the other kind where it builds, and then turn down for what? Right? And it's this negative hook. It's like the bottom drops out of it. For me, sing gently is more like turn down for what? I don't think I've ever said that sentence in my life. So, but it's a negative hook. So what we're doing then is we're going to build all the way to that moment, release, and then when we hit sing gently, it's as if the lights come down in the room. So it's not just, I think, did I mark it piano? I don't remember. Pianissimo, exactly. So, but instead of thinking as a singer, instead of thinking pianissimo, so it's a small sound, think more, we need to change the lighting in the room. Ready? Let's go right there, please. Right on the hook, sing gently. Good, and sopranos, where are you taking your breath there?
Before the repeat of one.
So you sing one.
One.
Beautiful, so that you've got a nice full tank to get across there. And the idea then, sopranos and altos, is that you're going to sort of provide cover, one, as we go across the bar line. That gives the basses and tenors a chance to take a big breath, and then they can come in. Basses and tenors, can we hear you right there then at May? Ready? 3, and go.
May we stand together always. May our voice be strong. May we hear the sea. And may we always
I have to tell the truth, which was I was only going to do a couple bars, and you sound so good. I was just like, let's just listen to all of that. Okay, so the quality that these four singers are getting is exactly what I always dreamed of when I wrote the piece initially, which is, what's the dynamic that I wrote there? Mezzo forte, is that right? Yeah, mezzo forte, but this is one of the challenges of being a composer is you've got this very limited toolbox of ways to describe what you want, piano, pianissimo, mezzo forte. What I want to say or to communicate is exactly what these four are doing, which is, it's not triumphant. It could be, right? We're in fifths and it's open and it's a nice meaty part of the register. But actually there's kind of there's a gentle humility with it, and it's kind of, there's a pride in being good. It's as if you're aching with good. I know I'm really overselling just these few bars, but your sound, it really captures all of that. And I remember writing those notes and hoping that's what that would be, that this isn't a moment of triumph. It's just good. Okay, so now then, altos out there, I always give my favorite lines to the altos. Yeah, woot, 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 altos. The sopranos get all the glory anyway. Actually, the tenors really get all the glory, right? Tenors just have to show up, they get the glory. Basses, they don't care. But altos usually get the leftovers, right? It's like la 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 la. They're just filling in chords most of the time.
One note only, please.
That's right. But so I always try to give the altos some really interesting, beautiful line like calligraphy. And so in this case, basses and tenors come in, boom. May we stand, and then down low in the registers, the altos come up, 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 and they launch the sopranos up. So they're actually the most important part of this entire phrase. Can we put all four parts together now? Right there. What measure is that, Chris? 29. Measure 29. Thank you. Ready? 3, and
May we stand together always. May our voice be strong.
Good. I don't know, I'm hoping it sounds over there like it does in here, and that you're having the same joy singing along with this group as I am. Here is another one of those places, so that we've got the final bit of that, may we always sing along, 2, 3, then push, pull. I would say that last little push-pull of long, right where we stopped, is more important even than the big epic bit where we soar, and the sopranos and altos just soaring. That little push-pull is most important because it's going to set us up now for the hook. This time, the second time, and it's going to be even more intimate. Can we sing right there on, which measure is that, Chris?
The top of this one. No, I think you mean 45, do you?
Yeah, let's do 45. Is that right on Sing Gently? Yeah. Thanks, Marty. Ready? 3, go. Good. Let's stop here for a moment. All right. So then, here is the final sort of piece of all of this. Is that during the writing process, I was introduced to the idea of kintsugi, which is this Japanese art form. They've been practicing for hundreds of years. And the idea with kintsugi is that if you've got a piece of pottery or ceramics, something that's very special to you, and it's been broken, instead of simply gluing it together, what you do is you fill the glue with gold so that it becomes this gold epoxy. And then that way, when you bind it back together, you see the cracks. They become gilded. And so instead of trying to hide the fact that the object has been broken, you make that part of its beauty, part of its story. And I thought that is the perfect metaphor for how we're going to make it through the pandemic, is that the society kind of broken apart in all these shards. You see this in the music video that we made with the virtual choir. And then the glue that would bring us back together, this golden glue, is compassion, is empathy. And the way that I did it musically is very simple. Chris, will you play the very first measure of the piece? Just listen to what Chris plays on the piano. Just that, right? So you start with those 2 notes, boom, so far apart, and then right there in the middle, that third, that's that glue of compassion. That happens over and over throughout the piece, but it especially happens in this moment when we sing Gently for the second time, because we've got altos and sopranos sing and basses, and then the tenors come right in, they're that glue. So tenors, as you sing this, it's not just a note that comes in on beat 2, it's actually binding in a gilded way everything that everyone else is doing. Can we sing right there from measure 45 now? Ready? 2, 3. Okay, so now before we heat up, this part where everything climaxes here, sopranos are just soaring and floating above all of this. Basses are going to have something interesting in a bit, but for right now, they're just outlining the chords. It's the altos and tenors that are playing, that have this little dance going. And let's do that now, just altos and tenors. Where's the measure where we just stopped?
53.
53?
53.
Yeah, is it 53?
The word 1.
Yeah, 1, right there. Here we go. Measure 53. Ready? Altos and tenors. 2, go. Beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. So you hear that? You hear that little dance that's happening, altos and tenors. Altos lift, tenors lift. There's that bump, that dissonance. It's just this beautiful, this little sea anemone dance that's happening in the middle of all of this. Then what we get as we start to bring it down is basses are coming down, sopranos get lower and lower in the register. And musically, the way it's written then is we're finally, by the last chord, we get back to unification. That's why we all are singing in unison, or not in unison, but we're all on the same note. We've all got a G there at the very end. And then Chris has the final note, which is the third. So he brings that glue in, and the whole piece becomes complete. Can we sing from 53 now, everybody? Ready? 2. That's it. Good, good, good. Singers, anything that you want to communicate to people on your voice parts at all?
Well, something we talk about a lot with this piece is how to say the second word in the title. So
Really?
I defer to Andrea because we also have another piece in our repertoire called Underneath the Stars, and the word gently is also very prominent in that. It's how we treat the T, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just so many different ways of you can make it really sort of sibilant and it comes across as sing gently, but sometimes, especially when it's this kind of lilting piece, that can feel like a bit too much in the line and it kind of breaks up the line. So we try to kind of just drop it in really subtly so we don't spend too much air or too much effort on it. So it comes a little bit more like sing gently.
Could we do, say, measure 45 and show you what happens if we don't
I would
make
love
this
to
special?
hear this.
So if we were to say it gently, as you might say it, or even sing it, it would sound like this. So just take us from 45.
45, please. Ready? 2, 3. Wow. Wow.
So it's quite a big...
It's profound, actually.
And it's not like we're all doing a lot of deliberate gently, but just within the sonority and sound world that this piece creates, if you do have that sibilant T, it can really pop out. The other thing I wanted maybe we could talk about, which I think is also highlighted in this very passage, which I find tricky as a singer, but I think is very important, and that's trying to not make the line sound as though it goes up and down. So to try and equalize, well, I mean, if we did it again and made it took away the effect that we're giving it and made a high note sound high and a low note sound low, you'll see what we
shall
mean.
we do
So
it?
we could do the same thing.
The exact same place?
Yeah,
45? Okay. Ready? 2, 3.
That seventh at the end. That seventh at the end in particular is really it's really awkward, but you just have to decide that it's really easy and
Okay.
go with it.
So for then singers who are out there, what's the technique that you're
Well,
using?
I think maybe people do it in a different way, but something I do is I think down on a high note and up on a low note. And you can even do it with I actually almost do it with my knees, so I would go always.
Huh.
Rather than always. So maybe we could do it with our knees, just ever so slightly go down on the all, and you'll...
Yeah, do you mind?
So we could go from the same place, and people will just show you when they think... It's all about thinking down at the high moments, I think, is the...
I love this.
The other thing to add to it maybe is that the low note needs to be clear, so it can't be like, always, always. The low note has to be quite clear as well. So thinking down on the high notes.
Yeah, take your breath right in the middle of the phrase and don't let it come away from that.
Yeah. And we'll see if we can show it.
Okay,
So
ready?
clear low notes and down on the high notes.
Same place. Ready? 2, 3. That's amazing. That is amazing.
But it's so difficult in music that's as fine in terms of its texture.
Yeah.
If you're out there singing Beethoven 9, you don't have to worry about this sort of thing. But when the texture is so clear and crystalline, having that sense of complete parity across the phrase is really, really important. And we, of course, spend our lives doing that. So
Yeah,
well
it's-
practiced.
It's funny because it reminds me now of our recording sessions, of recording home. So doing the Sacred Veil, doing this piece, Seal Lullaby. What else did we do? We did Go Love the Rose. All seems beautiful to me. And I remember, discussions like this on the smallest possible details, right? Should the ah be ah or ah or ah or ah? And each of you had different ideas and kind of finding consensus. And I think it's that level of detail that makes your sound so unique, so pure. Did you ever go mad from it?
Well, we do. I mean, the other thing I wonder if we might experiment a little bit with,
Please.
which is the magic potion is also the use of vibrato. Because I think we're singing in this idiom almost completely without vibrato.
Yep.
And that's not to say you should do that. That's an aesthetic choice. Whenever we use vibrato, it's as a colour. So, I mean, maybe we could go from the same place, again, because it's quite a good place, and just sing with liberal vibrato, just to show people quite how much we are removing it. So if we were singing individually from bar 45, it might sound... The dynamic doesn't have to be louder, but you'll immediately see that it's a very different thing. So we go from the same place.
Ready? 2, 3. That's amazing, right? It's suddenly Bruckner. It's just like...
So the things that we can do, I mean, we would use vibrato probably to climax the phrase. So when we really sing into something, we would sort of feel the tension into it and then release the tension with a bit of vibrato. We might do that in this repertoire. Maybe it might be considered too much, but we could show you that, which is sort of the halfway house.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we go from the same place, we'll just use vibrato to release the phrase. See what
Okay.
happens.
Ready? 2, 3.
To me, when I'm doing it, it doesn't feel like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It feels like in this texture, it should be almost without them.
Yeah, and Eric's talked a lot in the last half hour about the different functions he thought of for each part at different points. And for us in the basses, certainly from 53, we're just really providing the harmony there, aren't we?
That's right.
So we can't really be wobbling about on the note. We have to be really, really sort of laser sharp, because that creates the bed of sound that all the other parts can do their melodies on top of.
It's probably worth saying as well that the way that we're presenting this today, by the nature of it being a stream, means that we're standing in our recording setup. So we're mic'd from 2 meters away. Now, nobody would ever hear the group that close, and so it's almost like putting a magnifying glass over everything that we do, and therefore vibrato especially, and the colour and the depth of tone that you create wants to be a little bit less because everything is magnified. In a concert hall, say, I know you did this, I think, as an encore, didn't you, the other night?
Yeah, that's right.
When the emotion of a concert's running high, that might impact on something like this. You might sing a little bit more liberally in the encore, and so naturally the vibrato might come a bit more. And because people are 20 feet away to the front row, it doesn't have the same magnification, and so therefore this vibrato thing doesn't matter as much. But in this scenario, I don't know, people probably don't appreciate quite how closely they're hearing us, because it just sounds hopefully a bit like the CD. but it's really close.
Yeah. Well, you can also see each person has their own
Exactly.
individual mic, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's so close. So let me ask you then, when you're singing live like that, and let's say there's an emotional moment or an encore, some moment, is it just the group just feels it together that, okay, we're going to shift into that other gear? And
I think so.
I think most of the time we experience that kind of feeling as a unit. I mean, of course, we all come off stage sort of feeling differently about how we've individually performed and felt about things, but I think generally the emotion that carries in a concert happens as a group, and we kind of ride the wave.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And it's also, one of the difficult things about what we do is we do rehearse in this sort of scenario, and often the only feedback that we truly get of what the group is doing, because the moment someone steps out, it's not what the group's doing, that is through the medium of recording. And so we can get very boxed in by the fact that all of the feedback we get is magnified feedback in the recording studio. And probably when I go and listen to a VOCES8 concert, the first thing I'll think is, oh, I wish we'd opened up just a little bit more. And I think probably when we're on stage, that's what we're always trying to do. But again, it comes back to this idea that it's such a finite, crystalline thing, a cappella voices. The moment somebody breaks cover and sings a tiny bit on the voice when no one else is, or has the smallest amount of vibrato because they just couldn't hold it straight anymore, it's so obvious that it's happened. And so it's really breaking out the box.
It just never occurred to me, this dilemma you have, that you can never actually, no one can ever stand outside the group and listen, because then it's VOCES8.
Exactly.
It's just like it all just falls apart. That's
Paradox.
that is really interesting. Yeah, so your only feedback is the recording.
Yeah, and when people do leave the group, one of the nicest things that they ever do is come and hear the group for the first time. They always say, oh, I wish I had had that perspective when I was in the ensemble, because I'd have probably done a much better job. It's very interesting.
How beautiful. Good, gang, shall we now, let's sing it all the way through?
Let's do it.
Yeah, now that we've rehearsed it a little bit. Yeah, let's make some music. Okay, so as we go through this, everybody out there, remember everything that we worked on, right? So sopranos and altos, this beautiful pure tone that we're getting here in the room, and that peeling away that's got a little bit of pain. All the way throughout, remember that push, pull. Remember that third that the tenors have, where they're sort of the glue of compassion. And then especially as we approach the end, that the idea is from 30 seconds out, what we're trying to build towards is that moment of unification, of communion, that we all come together at the same time. Here we go.
May
I'm not crying, you're crying. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations, everybody. I truly hope that was as special for all of you as it was for us in here. Yeah, I'm having all of the feelings right now. So I guess we'll do the Q&A now. We'll start getting set up for that. The group will move over. While we're doing that, while everyone's getting set up in the other place, I know I held this up before. This is the vinyl version of this. And all of you who supported this album, thank you so much for helping to make this happen. As I alluded to at the beginning, it was a mountaintop musical experience for me. Working with VOCES8 for that entire week, recording this thing, and I think the album, I just find it so magical, so special. Not only the music and the performances, but even the graphics. I just find this gorgeous. This is by a graphic artist at Decca. We're trying to find the name of the person who did this because we just find it's perfect. Are we ready to go over? Are we still waiting for a few more minutes? Yeah. What we're doing now is we're just getting all the microphones set up for the Q&A. So if you've got any questions, you can be sending those in right now, and we'll be happy to answer those. The vinyl, by the way, is available now. This is my vinyl. I just got it when I came here to London. And I can't wait to get it home and play it on my record player. I don't know if any of you are as old school and lo-fi as I am, but a record player is the way to go. And I think this album especially is going to be nice and warm on one of these albums. I should also say that the reason I've been here this past week is not only for this event, but I've begun my residency at Pembroke College at Cambridge University, which is just about an hour outside London. And it's been a dream there. So I was able to do a couple services with Anna Lapwood Squire. She's the music director there at Pembroke. And then she and I conducted a concert together last night. So the chapel choir and I, and a really wide and interesting group of different composers, most of them alive, and most of them women. Some just gorgeous, gorgeous new pieces and new composers to me. And then yesterday afternoon, we had a big sing where people came from all over the place. There were people from England, but people had come from the States and from Europe as well to just come. There were about 200 of us in this new space that they've got at Pembroke. And we sang through Sing Gently and See a Lullaby. And what was the other piece? Sing Gently, See a Lullaby, and A Boy and a Girl. And my God, was that just so nice. Really fine amateur singers just showed up to make music on a Saturday afternoon. And then today, Sunday, we had a collection of about 45 composers and creative types. Some weren't composers. And I did a 5-hour beautiful mess masterclass. It's talking about the creative process and composition, and I came straight from there to here to work with VOCES8 and to do this event with you. I'm telling you all of this because it's been a glorious week here. I mean, not just because of the weather, but this kind of music making where I get to work with the best of the best, with VOCES8, with my own group. We did a concert Friday night, but then also these terrific amateur singers, the students at Pembroke. I just feel like my soul is filled every time I get a chance to make music like this, to be together and singing. And it reminds me of this pandemic era piece, how much we all missed that and needed that when we were in the middle of the pandemic, just to be in the same room and breathing together and singing together. And I find myself now, I joke about having tears in my eyes, but the truth is almost every time I stand on stage now, I just get all teary and emotional because I will never take for granted again the joy of singing together in a room with people. And boy, am I tired of Zoom. You all tired of Zoom? I know you're on it right now, but I'm ready for a Zoomless world. Let's all do this in person. Are we all ready, gang? Not yet. The last thing that I wanted to say is, Chris, where are you, Chris Glynn? Chris is over there. Christopher Glynn, and he's the pianist, of course, on this. But as I was mentioning before, he performed with us Friday night with the Eric Whitacre singers, and we did The City and the Sea, which is a piece of mine that doesn't get performed often. It's 5 different settings by E.E. Cummings, and it is a beast of a piano part. It's all in the white keys, but just really, really difficult, insanely difficult. Chris just knocked it out of the park. I mean, it was incredible. He just tore it up. And it made me think, as soon as we did it, we have got to record that. Those pieces aren't really recorded. There's been a few of them. Little Man in a Hurry is the final one. There's a few recordings out there, but there's nothing official, and certainly not with Chris playing. So we've got to do that soon. And the other thing we premiered was I did an arrangement of a song by the Pixies called Where Is My Mind? It's from 1988, and it's probably most famous as the final song from the movie Fight Club that came out in 1999. And I wrote it for my group, for the Eric Whitacre Singers, but Andrea Haynes, the first soprano here at VOCES8, came and sang the solo, and I wrote it specifically for her voice. And as I was calling the piece that Chris played a beast of a piano part, Andrea's solo line that I wrote for her was a beast squared. It's a low G sharp below middle C, all the way up to a high B, and everything in between, and all of these emotional colors and this journey that you take on this kind of reimagining of this pop song. And the way Andrea sang it, just heartbreakingly beautiful, so crystalline and gossamer. And that's another piece that we have to record soon. So I already joked with Andrea that because VOCES8 is so busy, I'm putting her somewhere in the calendar for 2029 or 2030. I think that's the first time that we'll have a chance to do that. But my plan too is, as I've already told her, is to do several more arrangements and have her sing them if she's game. Are we ready to go? What do you think?
I think come and make your way over. Why not?
Yeah? Barney, it's all
Let's
good?
do it.
Yeah.
Good. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go and hang out with the group, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Awesome.
Seems totally natural and
Yeah. Awkward family photo time.
This is exactly how we all sit when we're together.
All right, so let's get on. It's a question from Stacey, who says, I love feeling the motion through the song, like soft waves. I wonder, what is the image that you have in your mind while you're conducting, Eric? And for the singers, what images do we have?
Ah, that's beautiful. Well, let's start with you, Andrea, or singers. What images do you have, out of curiosity?
The image of you, Eric. I kind of mean that obviously half in tongue-in-cheek, but also I think it's true, because we do stand there looking at you, but all of our interaction with this particular piece has been actually with you.
Oh yeah, have you ever performed it without me?
Because we don't tend to walk around with Chris in our pocket as much as we'd
We'd like to.
as much as we'd love to. So one of the things I think is great about your direction is the fact it's very artistic and balletic. And so genuinely, when I sing the piece, even when I hear the piece now, I can see you sort of moving around. So that is genuinely my image of the piece.
Is that true?
Yeah,
that's a great. It's especially humbling for me to have Barney say that, because of course you rarely work with a conductor, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we were all surprised when we recorded the album. We weren't sure how. I especially was not sure, like, what am I doing here? Do you know what I mean? And I feel like there's just this natural dance that we do together that it feels so effortless. Did you feel that as well? I mean, we're on camera, so please.
We spent that week kind of extending to sort of VOCES 11, really, with Emma playing cello and Chris on piano as well.
Yeah.
We kind of sort of all became one unit.
It
So
really
I kind
felt
of-
like that. I
it was
thought.
just an extension, really.
There was a lot of trust involved, I think, and I think that's one thing that we do really well is trust each other, and that felt immediate as soon as we got together in the same room. I mean, there's photos of you laying on the ground as we sort of ran it ourselves, you know, and
Yep.
that's so cool that you could trust us just to do that, and that we trust you as a conductor as well. I think that exchange is really beautiful.
Ah, that's so nice.
Yeah.
You were very good and kind at both giving us leadership and direction, but also when something needed to happen that needed to be a bit different, not just saying, do this, but actually saying, how would you do that? And leaving us to it. And one of my favourite memories is you just lying on the floor.
Yeah.
And being like, sort it out, and once you do that, I'm going to lie here and feel the resonance through the floor.
Cello.
Okay, from Amanda, Sing Gently was my first virtual choir, but it won't be my last. How does it feel to know that people enjoyed taking part in the early virtual choir so much that they keep coming back?
That's a beautiful question. Yeah. So for me, it's I really don't have a word for it. I would say surreal, because I can't describe how small an experiment it started as for me. Right? I saw this video of this young woman singing "Sleep." She literally pushed play on a CD player and then just sang the soprano line over the top of it, and then uploaded it to YouTube. I'd never met this woman. She didn't even know if the video would get to me. And then my big idea was to have 25 people do this, and then literally, my idea was that I would just have them open in different browser windows and try to hit play as fast as I could on all of them, and then sing. And it was just like, this would have
We've
to
come
make,
a long way.
right? Yeah. Now
You're
I have
such
people.
a geek. You're such a nerd.
So just it was such a simple idea. And then when the first virtual choir happened, I remember when I saw the final video. So even as we were making it, it was, will this work? I'm not sure. And then I saw the final video, and it was only then that I understood the poetry of what was being made, which is that when you see all of these disparate people all over the world coming together for a single thing, that's when I realized, oh, this is much, much more meaningful than I even knew what we were doing. And so to answer the question then, it's extraordinary to me that it worked, and that it worked as a community, that somehow it's connecting people, and people keep coming back because they feel part of a family. That's just the most amazing thing to me. It speaks to what I think is the best of humanity.
Very nice. We have a question from our friend Tina, who's watching.
Hi, Tina.
One part of the alto line in Sing Gently is quite high. She's saying, I like breaking rules chorally. Was that one of your rule breaks?
Yeah, you gave us a D. Wow. Did Sibelius have that little red note?
It starts going red, doesn't it, around that time?
Luckily, I've got
funny.
Katie.
Yeah, it's a gentle dance when I'm composing between writing an ergonomic line, right? Something that's just written so that it unfolds in the voice naturally, and then what needs to be there, right? And I remember one of the things that I did with Sing Gently was that I was desperately trying to make the music just unfold. And one of the ways that you do that is, this will sound very simple and obvious, but if you want the singers to sing soft, you write it lower in their register. If you want them to sing louder, you write it higher in their register. It takes so much effort to do the opposite of that, right? And so in that case, altos, yes, you go way up to this high D, but it's for a reason. It's because then we need all of that power. There's only one way for you to do that, which is to bring all of that to the game. And you're supported by the other voices. So my hope was that, you know how I love the altos, is that just in that moment.
Does that include countertenors?
Especially.
Get the elephant out of the room.
Is that high? That's not a high note for countertenors, is it?
No, I mean, not. Chorally, it's quite high. Soloistically, we might sing F and G, but
Yeah,
chorally, it's, I'd say, rare, isn't it? I mean, it's a...
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, it's actually there's a nice note in there.
Depends on the rep. I mean, we were recording some Renaissance music yesterday where we were lucky to get the D an octave lower.
Yes.
oh yeah, it's all just in the basement. Yeah.
Melissa asks, which piece on the album on Home has been most impactful in your life? Ooh, anybody of singers want to go?
Well, who didn't cry in the Sacred Veil?
I still cry listening to it.
Yeah.
I think actually the one that really affects me is the one called Home. I think it's number 3.
Yep.
And the words are so simple, it's just you feel like home, but that just really moves me every time. And the way that we all sort of end up like sliding around on the lines, like particularly the 2 soprano parts, one after another, is just so overwhelming to hear that.
From an audience perspective, I think You Rise, I Fall is really impactful.
Yeah.
It's certainly impactful on us.
Yeah.
Because it's so unbelievably difficult to sing.
I still don't honestly know how you all did it, because it's it's not only, I mean, it's difficult for any group of singers, but with one on a part, it's it's Olympic level difficulty. It's
Doing
just,
it live, yeah, when we finally got to Child of Wonder, we do the whole first verse, and then the piano comes in. We're like, is it going to be?
yeah, like a
That was
laser.
lucky, yeah.
Luck of the draw.
It's the adrenaline, Chris. The adrenaline.
VOCES8, do you have any tips on becoming a vocal teacher, or do you have any tips on how to start up a choir? As I'd love to lead my own choir and take them on tours. From Chloe.
Good
Lots of things in
question.
there, yeah.
Be brave, I think. You know, the thing I notice about choirs that are managed to set up is it tends to revolve around one individual who has it at the top of their checklist all the time to run that choir.
Priority.
So somebody who is genuinely prioritising it, that's one thing. I think the other thing that had a big impact when we began as a group is that all of the other people also prioritised it. So actually, even if you end up with a choir of 5 or 6 people, it's much better to have 5 or 6 people who will commit to coming when you agree, maybe every week, rather than 30 people, 10 or 15 of whom can't make it on a weekly basis. It's one way to think about it, but other people might have.
Certainly when you're starting, just make sure it's fun. So much about singing is the community side of it, and the just connecting with other humans. I think it genuinely feels like a family, and that's a mixture of singing so much together as well as spending so much time socially together, because if you're singing next to someone, you've got to trust them, and vice versa. So finding an atmosphere straight from the get-go that is, we're here to make music and we're here to respect each other and have a good time.
Repertoire is a big part of the fun as well, isn't it? Pick things that people want to come and sing with you.
Yeah,
That's what I do with
definitely.
VOCES8, hopefully. Don't know why we had this guy in, but...
Okay, so somebody's asking, it seems as though you all have perfect pitch. Do you? I've never heard a note out of place on any of your videos or concerts. We've done okay then. Let a few go.
Come and listen as close as the mics do.
No, we don't. Nobody in the group has perfect pitch, actually. And we get asked this fairly often and tend to answer that we're fairly grateful that we don't have perfect pitch. As an a cappella group, we rarely have one sort of anchor point for pitch when we're singing. So we're kind of all a little bit moving around a little bit together. And of course, we're all endeavouring to sing in tune around a pitch centre, but sometimes that does move, and the fact that we all have the ability and the ear to move with it when it goes a little bit up and down is really great, because for most people that will be imperceptible. People with perfect pitch have something in their heads all the time saying, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, fight. So it's definitely a challenge. Certainly it's something that I think if you have perfect pitch, it's really good to practice and exercise being outside of that as well.
Well answered.
Yeah, we do all have quite good relative pitch, and that can be a problem. So what we mean by that is we can often tell when we're singing about what note we're singing. And sometimes, I say this definitely for myself, and I'm sure other people in the group may not, we're standing on stage, 3rd concert in 3 nights, so not as fresh as we might be. And my perception is a piece has gone flat or sharp, whereas actually my voice is just in a slightly different place than it was 3 days ago. So even relative pitch can be annoying.
Somebody here asking about Sing Gently, the piano part is subtle like raindrops. I wonder how the song would sound without the piano part. Would it be the same feeling or atmosphere? Yeah, the relationship between the two things is really interesting.
Yeah.
It's quite interwoven though, isn't it? Often I'm the middle voice.
Completely, yeah, and it's really you're as important as the vocal part, I find, Chris.
Yeah.
So I think it wouldn't. It's an interesting thought experiment, though. What could I replace the piano with, like a string orchestra or a harp, or there are maybe other things. It's. But actually, we got to hear a little bit of what it would sound like when you sang a cappella, right? Without the piano, and it's lovely because you all sound great, but it's very, very naked. Right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to finish the piece just on that single.
I think you're right.
G. The warmth of the third is really important.
You
to
need
me.
that resolution.
Yeah.
I was going to say that it's not just an accompaniment part, like you could put it on a harp or a string quartet. It's written very idiomatically for the piano as an instrument. And I think, especially the sonority of that middle B, it's such a sort of rich sound right in the middle of keyboard, isn't it? And it's just a very rich sound. I don't think it would sound quite the same on any other instrument.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
It's also very well played. Should be said.
Yeah, very well played. Yeah, incredibly well played.
I thought this the other day when I went to see the concert at the King's Place, but that low G at the beginning just fills the room. And how many octaves apart are the two Gs that begin the piece? It was like
3, right? Oh, is it 4?
it's a long ways away. But it's such a unique
4,
piano
yeah,
part.
yeah.
Such a unique piano part for that reason that it starts so far away, maybe representing the two different parts of society or something. But
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the split and then the glue.
it's very unique. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was writing it for Chris.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of bells in Eric. Like bells, distant bells.
Oh, that's nice.
Were you thinking that?
I wasn't, but I will now forever.
I think it's just so wonderful.
It's so, yeah, it's, I have to say also too, for those of you who were watching, the piano in here is unreal. This is one of the best pianos it's the kind of piano that is so good that when I sit down, and I'm not a very good pianist, I even play better. I was thinking, if I could compose on this piano, I'd be a better composer.
It's a Bluthner piano, and it was actually their recording piano for the years 2002 to 2012. So anybody who recorded on a Bluthner in Europe in that period played
on
that
this.
piano.
So it's,
And there is somewhere, it belongs to a good friend of ours called James Sherlock, who's a pianist, obviously, and composer. It was actually bequeathed to him. And when it was bequeathed to him, it came with a list of who those pianists were,
gosh,
I believe.
wow.
And I have glanced at it once, even with my relatively little knowledge of solo piano artists.
and it's outrageous.
There were a lot that stuck out to me.
We can add Christopher
And we can
Glenn
add
to that. That's
Christopher
right.
Glenn.
Add
There you
Chris
go.
Gwynn to it. Guys, we're at the end of our time, so we're going to have to say goodbye to you all out there. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Eric, for being back with us once again.
Oh, guys, it is such a joy. Let's do this.
Let's do it again sometime.
Every month, shall we? Yeah.
We'll let you know if
Thank
it's
you, guys.
happening.
Yeah.
Can I just point out that from my perspective, it's pretty much impossible to tell which is Blake and which is Eric.
Blake is the one that's 4 inches taller. That's how you know.
This height's great.
Now, I think you guys are going to have to give a very long wave, because the way that the VOCES8 Centre is set up is that this is the live room, but through that wall over there is the control room, and I've actually got to go and
Excellent.
stop the stream.
Oh, you have to stop. So as you're running there,
Yeah,
we're
so
sort
who
of
can
just...
think of a little? Who can
Long
think
wave.
of something to do for 30 seconds till I go and stop the stream? On your marks, get set, go!
Do you know when you're going to be back in the UK again?
I know I'll be back in October. Yeah, and it's especially this week. I was saying before that it fills my heart so much being here, and Cambridge was impossibly beautiful this week. The weather and everybody out on the River Cam, and so I just want to come back as often as I can.
Well, you're very welcome. You always got a home here.
Thank you.
Thank you all so
Bye,
much for joining
everybody.
us.